Hey everyone, it's Alison Heikkila. Thank you so much for joining me. It's time for my latest video for Imagine, and we'll be making a winter wedding card using some of the new VersaFine Clair Ink colors. Here you can see the 12 brand new colors of VersaFine Clair inks on these little swatches that I made for myself. And here are the old 24 colors. So now there's a total of 36 VersaFine Clairs. We're going to be using a brand new BetterPress Plate from Spellbinders and Yana Smakula called Festive Poinsettias. And I've chosen 3 focal colors for this piece. We're going to use Baby Pink, Hawthorn Rose, and Lilac Bloom. Now, I've got some cotton cardstock and my BetterPress plate, plus the BetterPress system here. And the first thing that I need to do is get my plate on the chase of the system. And it's magnetic, so it's going to stick really well. It's a little tricky to get a big plate like that off. But then I'm going to take my piece of cotton cardstock and I'm going to tape it to the other piece, the clear piece, which now I'm forgetting what it's called. I've got some Spellbinders tape here, and I'm going to tape the back of the cotton cardstock because this is an all-over print, and obviously we don't want the tape to be in the way of our print. And you can see that there's a border of the plate around the edge of the cardstock, and that means that the entire thing will be inked up perfectly. So I've got Twilight ink. This is my second favorite color of VersaFine Clair ink. I use it so often, and we are just inking up this press plate really well with the clear ink. I'm not just tapping, I'm not just swiping, I'm kind of doing a tap and swirl kind of thing to make sure that the plate is covered really well. I'm going to run that through my die cut machine and wait till you see these results. Look at this. How beautiful is that? My light is flashing there on the plastic, so I took the piece off. Look at how beautiful that is. That's just one pass. You can do it again if you want to. Obviously, you wouldn't want to remove the cardstock from the plate if that was the case. But I didn't see a need to. I thought it looked great the way it was. I put my piece onto a gel press plate, which is on a piece of acrylic. I just find this to be a lot easier when I'm stenciling. It just keeps everything in place for me, and I like doing it this way. You can do a different method if you prefer, but this is what works for me. I'm doing the stencils out of order because I wasn't quite sure which way I was going to ink up the pinks and light purples. So I'm working with the ones I know for sure are specific colors. So we're doing Cheerful for the centers of the poinsettias. You can see that here. Next, we're going to go in with Pinecone for, well, you guessed it, the Pinecones. These are both older colors. And I'm using cosmetic sponges to apply this ink. There are different ways that you can do this. You can also use different inks, but I really wanted to highlight the VersaFine Clairs. If you were using regular dye-based inks, these are pigment inks, then using a blending brush would be excellent. But here I'm using a cosmetic sponge. You can use sponge daubers if you want to, but there's more of a surface area on these cosmetic sponges, so that's what I like to use. So now I am lining up the next stencil. I'm not sure what number it is. Again, I go out of order simply because I'm using the stencils that I know exactly what colors I'm going to be applying. And I wasn't quite sure where the baby pink was going to go versus the hawthorn, etc. So I'm just getting these colors laid out so that I can then determine where everything else is going to go. So now we're using Shady Lane. This is a great shade of green. This is probably my most used shade of green. It's just really nice. Something to keep in mind, you can see some white areas where I've stenciled already. I don't mind it. It really reminds me of what letterpress looks like, how sometimes things don't register properly. They're a little off kilter. The reason that it's happening is not because of the stencils or anything. It's because I'm using a cosmetic sponge. If you were using a blending brush, you would fill this whole thing with no problem, but the cosmetic sponge doesn't quite get into the nooks and crannies quite the same, so some things are slightly off. We just used Spruce, that's one of the new colors, and now I'm lining up one of the stencils that has the poinsettias and the berries, and I decided to go with Baby Pink for this one. So I'm going to just quickly sponge some of this color on, and you can see how quickly this whole thing happens. Obviously, I've got it sped up quite a bit, but this is a quick process, especially if you're doing like mass production. You could just bang a bunch of these out in no time. Now we are going to move on to the next layer with the poinsettias, and I think I'm using Lilac Bloom for this one. We'll see. Yep, Lilac Bloom. This is really pretty. I thought it worked well with the baby pink and the Hawthorn rose. Poinsettias don't really come in these colors, but we're doing kind of a fantasy thing here, and we're making it into a wedding card. Obviously, you can use this for other types of occasions if you'd like. Now we're moving into Hawthorn Rose. This is the last layer that we're doing. But I think it looks nice for a wedding, especially if you know the bride's colors, the bride and groom's chosen colors for their party or flowers or whatever. I think that this works out really well. And you can just play with different color combinations for it. Look at that. I love it. It's so cool. And I really like having the Twilight as the background. It's not as harsh as a black would be. It's a little softer, but I really like it. So I grabbed the Handwritten Sentiments die set from Spellbinders, and I'm inking up a piece of cardstock with baby pink for the shadow layer of my sentiment, which is congrats. And then I'm going to use Pinecone for the main word. And this is the greatest thing to do if you don't have colored cardstock that matches whatever you're working on. Just use the same inks that you've already used on your project, and now it's going to match perfectly. The baby pink looks super bright right now, but it's because it's really saturated and wet. It's going to dry down nicely, and then it will obviously coordinate with that baby pink layer that we have on the card. I've got my On Point glue. This is fantastic glue for doing little fiddly things like this. I use it for anytime I'm adhering sequins or rhinestones. You'll see me do that shortly. And we're just attaching the top layer to the shadow. And now we're going to apply some other glue to our card panel and attach it to our base. There's no reason to use On Point for this. You can if you want to, but I feel like it's kind of a waste. So I just grabbed a different type of craft glue. We're going to adhere that down. This is a full 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, so it covers my entire card base, so no need to worry about inking the edges or anything like that. And now I am applying our sentiment. And you can change this up to whatever you want. If you want it to be like Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, that's fine. But again, I'm going for a wedding theme. I grabbed some card bling. This is Luminous Petticoat Pink from A Colorful Life Designs. It matches my card panel perfectly. And now you can see I've got my On Point glue, I've got a jewel picker and my pokey tool, and we are easily applying all of the sequins that I have here using those 3 tools all at once. It makes the whole thing so much easier when you do it this way. And that's our card, my friends. I love how this came out. These colors are great. What is your favorite new color of the VersaFine Clair? I think it's Bally Blue for me, but I didn't use that today. We'll have to break that out another time. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. I hope you enjoyed this. I will see you again soon. Be well, stay safe. Peace out.